Hey, what's up everyone? GameDad here, coming at you guys with another compilation video, and this time we are taking a look at the 4-part series that I did covering my Game Gear collection. I don't know what it is about this handheld, but I sure have a fun time collecting for it, probably because it's also dirt cheap to do so. Now, if you are new to the channel or you just haven't yet, please be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below, as well as that little notification bell so that you get an alert every time I got a new video coming out. Now let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at this 4-part series covering the Sega Game Gear. The 5-in-1 Fun Pack was released by Beam Software in 1994 and gives you 5 just kind of classic board games. So you get things like checkers, backgammon, stuff like that, and you just go through and you're able to play these games in a handheld fashion, taking it on the go with your Game Gear. The Addams Family was developed by Arc Developments in 1993 and is your typical kind of action platformer. You're going around playing as Gomez, hopping around, getting hit by all kinds of enemies, dodging obstacles. It's exactly what you would expect. The coloring is fun, and the music overall is exactly what you would expect from an Addams Family game, but I mean, that's pretty much where it ends. Not very unique. Aladdin was released by SIMS in 1994, and this Game Gear version is okay, but it doesn't really play like other Aladdin games. And what I mean by that is it's kind of just an auto runner and dodge the obstacles. You do get to do some platforming and stuff, but honestly, I think the console versions of this game are far superior. Up next, we have Alien 3, released by Probe Entertainment Ltd. In 1992, and this game is actually a lot of fun and pretty fast-paced for what it is. So it's an action-style platformer, but you're going around constantly getting barraged by aliens as you are trying to rescue all the different prisoners. So pretty fun. You get to blow up aliens like you would expect, and you get to kind of go Metroid-style all throughout the level. Up next is Ariel, the Little Mermaid, released by Blue Sky Software in 1992, and this game, it definitely felt like a ripoff of Echo the Dolphin. It is just you playing as Ariel, kind of floating around, and it pretty much has the same overall control scheme and gameplay as an Echo game, just without, like, speed and, you know, a fun story. Up next is Ayrton Senna's Super Monaco GP2, released by Sega in 1992, and this is a fun racing game, but it's kind of interesting in the way that it has you race. So you go through, and instead of having an automatic shifter, it's manual, but your car is just automatically driving, and you just shift the gears whenever it's time to either go up, go down, get around turns, things like that. So pretty fun. Up next is The Simpsons, Bart vs. the Space Mutants, released by Arc Developments in 1992, and if you have ever played this on the NES or the Genesis, it is the exact same game. The graphics aren't quite as good as on console, but they are still very impressive for a handheld, especially from this era. So the gameplay, it's pretty fun, it's definitely unforgiving, just like in the original games, but yeah, fun side-scroller. Up next is the Berenstain Bears Camping Adventure, released by Realtime Associates in 1994, and this game you get to play as either brother or sister bear, and you go through a few different levels in different kind of themed environments, and you just have some action platforming fun. It's very simplistic, definitely kid-oriented, but overall, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid game for what it is. Up next, we have Bonkers Wax Up, released by Al Baker and Associates in 1995, and this game is a typical action platformer where you got to dodge all the baddies that are coming at you left and right, and this is based on the old cartoon from the 90s, Bonkers. So you're going through this haunted, like, wax museum kind of thing, and you're just trying to solve the mysteries that are going on. Typical platforming game. Up next, we got Bust-A-Move, released by Santos Ltd. In 1995, and this game is exactly what you would expect. It's a Bust-A-Move game. You go through, and you got to get match 3 or more to get all the different little colored orbs. The graphics are very simplistic in this game compared to console versions, but the gameplay is still solid. It's still a super fun game. Up next is Captain America and the Avengers, released by Realtime Associates in 1993. And this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you get to either play as Captain America, Iron Man, Vision, or Hawkeye. I chose Iron Man when I was doing my capture for this. And overall, I mean, the game is exactly what you expect. You just beat up all the baddies that are coming at you and get to the next level. That way you can complete the story. Now, up next is Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse, and it was developed by Sega in 1991. However, as you can see, there is definitely something wrong with my cartridge. No matter how many times I tried to clean it with some rubbing alcohol, it was just not working. So I'm going to have to crack this thing open, see if I need to reflow the solder or something like that. But Castle of Illusion, it was also released on a few other consoles, and it's just a typical side-scrolling Mickey game. Up next is Cheese Catastrophe, starring Speedy Gonzalez, released by Cryo Interactive in 1995. And same thing as Castle of Illusion, this game would just not work. Every time I plugged it in, it would give me a power failure. So I don't know if this game had a battery in it for some reason, but I gotta crack it open and see what I can do to get this thing working again. And up next, we have Clutch Hitter, released by Sega in 1991. And this is actually a pretty good baseball game, especially for being able to take it on the go with a handheld. It does have limited teams, but I'm not sure if maybe later in the game, after you beat a bunch of different levels and stuff, if you get to unlock more teams. But overall, the gameplay itself is actually really fun. As you can see right here, I'm throwing out a couple pitches, trying to strike the guy out. And here we have Columns, released by Sega in 1990, and this is kind of like a Tetris game, except you get to actually move the different jewels around so that you get them into the spot that you want so that you can make your rows and get everything all taken care of. The game is pretty fun. It takes a little while to kind of wrap your head around how you want to manipulate things, but overall, I thought the gameplay was unique and I liked it. Up next is Crystal Warriors, released by Sega in 1991, and this has like JRPG vibes written all over it. So you take a team of fighters, warriors, mages, all that kind of stuff. You're going through an overworld and you're fighting Final Fantasy style, trying to complete the story. Now, I gotta say, for a Game Gear game, it is pretty impressive, the scope of this game, but overall, not really my type of gameplay. Up next, we have Deep Duck Trouble, starring Donald Duck, and this was released by Aspect in 1993. Now, if you've ever played like a DuckTales game or anything like this, very, very similar gameplay. It's very platform heavy, and you just get to go through and play as Donald. I can't remember the last time I played a game as Donald Duck, so that was kind of fun to be able to go through and just play another classic Disney platforming game. Up next, we have Desert Speedtrap, starring Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, released by Probe Entertainment in 1994. And this game is just flat out a Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff. I don't know what the point of this game is other than running fast and getting to the end of the level. Sounds familiar, right? Yeah, except there's no rings or anything like that, but everything does try to kill you, and you just move fast. I mean, it's Sonic with a Looney Tunes skin. Up next, we have Devilish, released by Opera House in 1991, and when you look at the cover, you would not expect what this game actually is. Think Breakout meets, like, action game, not really platformer, but kind of like Jackal on the NES. So you go through, you're playing regular Breakout, but you're also taking out enemies and advancing through the level as you're playing Breakout. This game is super addicting. Up next, we have Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, released by Compile in 1993, and this is another Tetris-style, Dr. Mario-style kind of game. So they blatantly say that you have to get rid of viruses and beans and stuff in this, like Dr. Mario, but it's kind of cool because instead of just going straight across or straight up and down, you can actually chain things together because they're kind of like jelly beans. And last up for this video is Echo the Dolphin, released by Novatrade in 1994, and it is the same basic gameplay as on the Genesis, but honestly the graphics are so much worse on this handheld. It's just, it is not the same game. The gameplay is okay, it's kind of frame droppy, but overall I'd rather play this game on the Genesis. F-15 Strike Eagle was released by NMS Software in 1993. Now, this is your typical kind of, not really Top Gun, but typical fighter pilot kind of game. You're going around, you're blasting all the baddies in the sky, and just having some, in the cockpit shooter kind of fun. So the game is okay. A little too wordy for my taste for this kind of game, but it was all right. Up next, we've got Formula One, released by Tech London in 1993. And this is your typical kind of like indie arcade racing game. But honestly, even though it's Game Gear graphics, it's really bad. The graphics are just not good in this game. And there are much better racing games on this handheld. And here we have G-LOC Air Battle, released by Sega in 1990, and this is one of the earlier games on the handheld. It's pretty good, it's not great, and they definitely came out with some better ones as time went on, but it's got some decent graphics for it. The controls are pretty easy to get used to, and it's pretty straightforward. You just find the enemies and shoot them out of the sky. Up next is Garfield Caught in the Act, released by Novo Trade in 1995. And this is your typical kind of platformer, but with Garfield. So, pretty cool. I remember watching the Garfield cartoon and reading the comics and stuff like that when I was a kid. So, kind of neat to see a video game of it. The colors are pretty good. The animations are a little weird at times, but overall, it's actually a pretty decent platformer on the Game Gear. Up next is Halley Wars, released by Act Japan in 1991, and this is a vertically scrolling top-down shooter. And it's super fun. I mean, as far as shoot 'em ups go, the game has everything you would expect. You get some little bullet hell kind of areas, but nothing crazy. And it's just good, clean shoot 'em up fun. Up next, we have Home Alone, released by Al Baker and Associates in 1992, and I have no idea what this really has to do with Home Alone. I mean, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I don't remember a part where he's sledding through the neighborhood or anything like that. So, kind of weird. It's kind of like a racing game and the gameplay that you're seeing, but yeah, I don't know. Not that fun. I'd rather play one of the actual console versions. Up next is The Incredible Hulk, released by Probe Software in 1994, and it's exactly what you'd expect. You play as Hulk and you smash stuff. So it's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. It's pretty cool. He does have some pretty neat actions that he can do. He can kind of grab people and headbutt them. He can like kind of throw them across the screen, stuff like that. And then of course, Hulk can smash. So that's pretty cool. And actually, graphically, it looks pretty darn good. Up next, we have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, released by Tiertex in 1991. And this game is actually really good on the Game Gear. Graphically, it's very impressive. They have lots of different shades and stuff like that, and all the character models and the level design. Overall gameplay is pretty good. Jumping can get a little weird at times, but the game is actually a lot of fun for a handheld Indiana Jones game. Up next is Jeopardy, released by GameTek in 1993, and boy, is that a black-haired Alex Trebek on the front. And the game, I don't know why in the game he has white hair when he doesn't on the cover of the game, but I mean, it's Jeopardy. It's exactly what you would expect. You get your categories, you get the cost of each thing, you go in and you answer. I will say it's pretty hard to get the answers out quickly just because you have to spell it all out, but I mean, yeah, it's Jeopardy. And here we have Jeopardy Sports Edition, released by GameTek in 1994. And the gameplay, as you can see, even graphically, is identical to the other Jeopardy game. They just changed the question banks. It's literally the same game, just new questions. That's it. They were kind of lazy with it. Up next is Joe Montana Football, released by Blue Sky Software in 1991, and unfortunately, no matter what I did, I could not get my Retron to play this game. It just would not work. I cleaned it, I used Bright Boy on the game, everything, nothing would get this game to come up on anything but the actual handheld. So the gameplay is okay. It is one of those games that actually use a link cable, so that's cool, but overall, just another sports game. And up next, we have The Jungle Book, released by Syrox Developments in 1993. And I actually have both the North American and European versions of this game in the collection. And if you're wondering if there's anything different, nope, just the label on the cartridge itself. Gameplay is pretty good. It feels kind of like Lion King gameplay in these parts of the levels. But overall, I mean, it's just a generic Disney platformer. Nothing super crazy or special about it. The music's pretty catchy and sounds good on a Game Gear, though. Up next is Jurassic Park, released by Sega in 1993, and I don't know if there's more to the game. I didn't have a lot of time to put into playing hours of this game or anything like that. But this whole part reminded me of like Super Scope games where your character is auto moving along and you just got to shoot stuff on the screen, except there's no scope. You just use the D pad. But I mean, I guess it's entertaining. And up next, we have Krusty's Funhouse, released by Audiogenic in 1992. And this is a very bright, very vibrant platformer set in the Simpsons universe where you actually get to play as Krusty the Clown. So I thought that was pretty cool. The gameplay is interesting. I mean, you can see you kind of get like some moon graphics on the jumps and stuff like that. They can be a little hard to control. But overall, I mean, it's just a Simpsons platformer. Up next is The Lion King, released by Syrox Developments in 1994. And personally, I don't really care for the Game Gear version all that much. I do like the Genesis version, and I do like it like on actual consoles, but overall, I didn't really care for it on the handheld. Graphics weren't that great, and as you can see here, I didn't have any footage to show because, again, the Retron 5 just would not let me capture any kind of solid footage. And here we have Madden NFL 95, released by Tiertex in 1995, and it's exactly what you'd expect. It is a handheld Madden game. When they do these little, like, quote-unquote cutscene kind of things right here, the graphics aren't that bad considering what it's being played on, but the overall gameplay I have seen much better in a handheld and much better from the Madden series. So it wasn't that great, and I'm not really a fan of sports games to begin with. Now, here we have The Majors Pro Baseball, released by ITL Company Ltd. in 1992. I don't know if they released a lot of stuff, but that is a mouthful of a name, and I couldn't get this game to go past that initial menu screen. That was about it. So I'm showing it to you twice. Up next is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, released by SIMS in 1994. And in this one, it's pretty sweet. You get to go through, choose which Ranger you want to go as, and then you go beat 'em up style throughout all the different levels. As you can see here, I just chose Red Ranger, taking out some putties. And yeah, I mean, pretty solid Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game. And honestly, the colors and the sound are a lot better on this handheld than, say, the Game Boy Color. And here we have Mortal Kombat, released by Probe Entertainment in 1993, and yet again, one that just would not work capturing through the Retron. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe just some of the games don't work through the little 3-in-1 adapter that they provide, but I cleaned the heck out of the game and took a little Bright Boy to it. Works fine in the Game Gear itself, but it will not let me capture the footage. But it's classic, original Genesis-style Mortal Kombat. And last up for today's video is Monster Truck Wars, released by Gremlin Interactive in 1994. And luckily, this is the last one in this video that you guys have to put up with no actual gameplay footage because the Retron let me down again. There are a few games throughout the collection where it just does not want to play the games and allow me to actually get some footage for it. But it's a pretty fun game. Monster trucks destroying stuff. NBA Action, starring David Robinson, was released by Sega Interactive in 1994, and overall gameplay is kind of what you would expect for an NBA-style game. It kind of has a feeling like it wants to be NBA Jam, but not quite as good, but overall, I mean, the game is okay. The gameplay is kind of good, and it's just, another Sega sports game. Up next, we got NBA Jam, released by Iguana Entertainment in 1993. And while the Game Gear version doesn't have coloring that is as good as, say, the Genesis or Super Nintendo, honestly, I kind of like this version better. It's a little more simplified, but it still looks really good, especially on a handheld. And you just go around having classic NBA Jam action. Love this game. Up next is NHL All-Star Hockey, released by Gray Matter Incorporated in 1995. And much like with any hockey game, really, I don't really know what's going on because I don't really know the rules of hockey. But I could tell that I was passing the puck around and moving around the rink and trying to score a goal. Don't know if I was the correct team or if I was thinking I was a CPU or not. But overall, kind of fun, I guess. And here we have Ninja Gaiden, released by Japan System House in 1991. And honestly, I like these better on console. On Game Gear, it's pretty smooth. It can get bogged down with enemies sometimes. As you can see just in the gameplay, it starts to slow the more that's on the screen. But overall, I mean, it's okay gameplay. It's what you would expect from a handheld, but again, I would rather play this on a console. And here is Pac-Man, released by Namco in 1991. And unfortunately, I was not able to capture any gameplay for this, but honestly, if you played one Pac-Man, you played them all, at least since the Atari days, because that one was terrible. But yeah, it's just Pac-Man on the Game Gear. Classic game, classic music, classic gameplay. Up next is Poker Face Paul's Blackjack, released by Spidersoft in 1994, and it's exactly what you would expect. It's Blackjack. You go through and you play Blackjack. That's pretty much it. It's just card games on the Game Gear, and I don't really see any value beyond that. Next up is Poker Face Paul's Gin, released by Adrenaline Interactive in 1994, and this one is way more animated and looks a lot better than the Blackjack one, but honestly, I have no idea how to play Gin. I never learned as a kid or anything like that and never had an interest as an adult. But here it is. Here's Gin on the Game Gear. And finally, we have Poker Face Paul's Solitaire, released by Spidersoft in 1994. And I don't know, I think the other company did a better job with these titles. This one is okay. I mean, they did add some animation to it at least, but it is just solitaire, and it kind of lays out the cards in a weird way that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm used to Microsoft Solitaire growing up, so this one was just odd to me. Up next, we got Predator 2, released by Teeny Weeny Games in 1992. And this game is okay. I mean, graphically, it's not that great. And as you can see, my gameplay was kind of skewed just because it was not capturing properly. The graphics obviously look messed up here. But overall, the game playing on actual Game Gear is just okay. Up next, we have Psychic World, released by SIMS in 1991. And this is your typical action adventure RPG kind of game. It's okay gameplay. It's very common, I guess you could say. It definitely feels exactly like this game should be, but there wasn't really anything that stood out that made me just go, wow, I want to keep playing this. Up next, we've got RC Grand Prix, released by Absolute Entertainment in 1992. And as you can see, this one kind of did the same thing when capturing it. The colors were off, and no matter how many times I cleaned it or polished the pins, it would just not work to give me proper colors. But overall, I mean, the gameplay is exactly what you would expect. It's an RC game. It's kind of cool how it has overlapping tracks, brings me back to kind of arcade-style RC games. But overall, I mean, nothing to write home about. And here we have Ren and Stimpy, Quest for the Shaven Yak, released by Realtime Associates in 1994. And the game is ridiculous, just as you would expect anything Ren and Stimpy to be. It kind of reminds me of like a Simpsons kind of game or like a Beavis and Butthead kind of game. It's essentially the same thing. I mean, right here, you're just going through basic platforming gameplay and collecting random stuff as you do. Here we have Riddick Bowe Boxing, released by Micronet in 1993, and this is your typical boxing game. I mean, there's nothing really special about it. The graphics are not that bad, I will say. I think they rival the NES graphics, actually, and, I mean, everyone loved Punch-Out!, but this one, it was kind of strange with the side-by-side view. It was kind of hard to keep track of what was going on, but overall, kind of a fun boxing game. And here we have Rise Star, released by Japan System House in 1995. And the Rise Star games are just awesome. What a good platformer. Honestly, I think if Sega didn't take off with Sonic, it would have been Rise Star. This was a very cool mascot that they had some very unique mechanics with the stretching arms that allowed it to do different things, swing and climb and pick up different objects. And overall, just excellent platforming fun. And the colors are so vibrant. And here we got Road Rash, released by Electronic Arts in 1993. And Road Rash is probably one of my favorite franchises from this era. And on the Game Gear, honestly, to me, it looks just like the Sega. It might be pixeled down just a little bit, or the colors might be a little off, but overall, the gameplay is definitely there. There is a little bit of slowdown the more that gets on the screen, but it's still Road Rash, and it's still a lot of fun. Up next, we have Shanghai 2, released by Sun Electronics in 1990. And honestly, I don't really know much about this game because I couldn't get it to play on my Game Gear or get it to capture any kind of footage. So if you know more about this game, let me know down in the comments below. I would definitely be interested to find another copy. That way I can actually play it. Up next is Shining Force 2, The Sword of Haja, released by Sonic Software Planning in 1994. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name. But this is just classic RPG, go out on a grand adventure JRPG status. And the game is actually pretty fun. It's very vibrant, it has good story, it doesn't just bog you down with a crap ton of dialogue, which I really appreciate. And overall, the game I really enjoyed. Classic Game Gear, go out on your adventure action. Up next is Shinobi 2, The Silent Fury, released by Sega in 1992. And this is just more classic Shinobi action. I mean, what more is there to say? You're a ninja going around facing off against all the baddies. And I really enjoy the Shinobi franchise. I actually have the Shinobi 1 arcade machine. And it's just fun for hours. Such a great arcade style game. Up next is Sonic Blast, released by Aspect in 1996. And this game, it's pretty fun, but it's kind of weird because it's like playing the original Sonic games, but more 3D, or they really tried to make it more 3D. Overall, gameplay is what you would expect from a Sonic game, but I don't know, it just kind of looked weird just because of that forced 3D look to it. And it was fast. Up next is Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin, released by Sega in 1992, and I really didn't care for this. I've played some real duds of a Spider-Man game, and I've played some really great Spider-Man games, but this one, I mean, graphically, it's great. Beat 'em up style, it's a lot of fun, but the web slinging, I don't know. I didn't care for it, and it was really hard to tell what exactly you were supposed to even do in the game. And here we have Sonic the Hedgehog, released by Ancient in 1991. And Sonic 1 on the Genesis wasn't that great. I mean, sure, it defined what would become a Sonic game, but Sonic on the Game Gear is just kind of It's the same kind of gameplay. I mean, graphically, I kind of like the graphics better. I think it's a little brighter and looks kind of neat, but it's so basic and so simplistic. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released by Aspect in 1992 and takes classic Sonic action, puts it onto the Game Gear, and honestly, the game is a blast on Game Gear. It is graphically a little inferior, of course, just because of the hardware, but overall, I think it's still really fun, and it's more like a Mario Land kind of version of Sonic. So it's not the same as the console, but it's still really fun. Up next, we have Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, released by Aspect in 1994, and this game throws Knuckles into the mix. So, super awesome Sonic platforming action, and you also get Knuckles in it, and personally, I always like playing as Knuckles in any of the Sonic games. So, it was awesome to see that addition on the Game Gear handheld as well. And here we have Sonic Chaos, released by Aspect in 1993. And in this game, it's another just typical Sonic platformer. The graphic style is a little bit different in this game compared to the other ones. And it's a little bit like sped up and faster. But overall, I mean, it's just another fun Sonic game on the Game Gear. And here we have Sonic Labyrinth, released by Minato Gaiken in 1995, and this one is definitely a weird one for the Sonic franchise. It takes more of an isometric view instead of the typical Sonic 2D side-scrolling platformer, and it's kind of strange the way the game operates. I mean, it looks like Sonic, and it sounds like Sonic, but it's very odd. I don't know. It's just not really my favorite Sonic game. And here we have Stargate, released by Probe in 1994. And I don't know if there's more to the game after this intro part, but this whole intro part has a very, like, Tempest vibe to it. As you can see, the tiles just kind of drop into place. You flip them around. You're trying to make the Stargate address. And overall, I didn't really care for it being on the Game Gear, but I do like it on other consoles. And here we have Star Wars, released by Tiertex in 1993, and this game is a lot of fun on this handheld. It's pretty simplistic, and gameplay is kind of like sped up. Not really super fast or anything, but it's just kind of jumpy. And it is fun, though. I mean, you're going around, as you can see, and playing as Leia here, shooting away with the blaster. Jumping is a little bit difficult in the game, but overall, I mean, really great Star Wars game, in my opinion. Up next, we have Super Columns, released by Sega in 1995, and it's a lot like the regular Columns game with some extra added features, but honestly, I think Super Columns looks worse than the regular Columns game on the Game Gear. I don't know, something about the graphics, it just wasn't that good. It's like they tried to be a little more creative with it and failed, in my opinion. Of Super Monaco GP, released by Arc System Works in 1990. And a pretty fun racing game. Not the best one that I've played. I do like Monaco GP 2 a little bit better. But overall, I mean, this one was still fun. It's classic arcade style racing. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And in this one, everything is automatic. You don't have to manually shift. So that's kind of nice. I never really cared for manual transmissions in racing video games. Up next, we got Surf Ninjas, released by NewFX in 1993, and the movie was not that great, so I don't know why they made an actual game out of it. And as you can see, my copy is definitely having some graphical issues. It was kind of hard to get through the menus, but once I did, the actual gameplay was working okay. Colors were a little off, but I mean, as you can see here, the text came up no problem, but the game is definitely glitching out. Up next, we have Tasmania, released by NewFX in 1992. And this game, it's pretty good, but I like the next one in this video a little bit better. This, I don't know if it's just I'm not very good at the game, but man, I died so many times trying to outrun this stinking stone ball. And I couldn't jump over it. I couldn't outrun it. I was able to get kind of far in the level using my little spin thing, but then that ran out and I got crushed. Now here we have Taz and Escape from Mars, released by Head Games in 1994, and this one was a lot more fun. As you can see, the graphics are way better in the game. There's a lot more animation to it. Even his little spin attack looks way better. And this is more of a classic platforming game, just done Looney Tunes style. And I've always liked the Looney Tunes games, so it was cool to see a game like this actually get made. Up next is Terminator 2 Judgment Day, released by Flying Edge in 1993, and this game is seriously nothing more than just a side-scrolling beat-em-up. There's nothing really Terminator about it that I can tell, and you just go around and beat the heck out of everyone. That's really it. You're punching people, and that's it. You can't even really throw people, you can't kick them or anything like that. You just go around punching stuff. Here we have Vampire, Master of Darkness, released by SIMS in 1993. And this game had a lot of Castlevania kind of vibes to it. And not just because there's a vampire in it, but because its art style and everything like that is pretty much the same. I mean, you're just kind of walking around a side-scrolling level. You can do some stabby McStabs and kill some enemies, and that's about it. And here we have VR Troopers, released by Syrox Developments in 1995. And these are like the wannabe Power Rangers. They're like the Power Rangers ripoff. And the game plays pretty much exactly like any Power Rangers game. You just play with these like teens in their suits and you go. I mean, that's pretty much it. There's nothing really spectacular about the game. It plays kind of slow. And there are much better fighting games on the handheld. Up next, we got Winter Olympics Lilyhammer 94, released by US Gold in 1993. And this game is garbage. I mean, it's very rare to find any of these Olympic games or anything like that that are actually truly fun for, more than 5 minutes. And yeah, it's cool. They added like some cutscene stuff to it or whatever. But overall, gameplay is super stick figure-y and not really fun at all. Here we have Woody Pop, released by Sega in 1991, and this game was actually a lot of fun. It was giving me a few issues at first, but finally got it to work, and it's like a breakout style game. You're just going through, you're hitting all the little things and getting power-ups, and as you can see, it's launching like little robots onto the map and stuff, and I mean, it was fun. It was a unique take on a breakout game. And here we have Wonder Boy, The Dragon's Trap, released by Westone in 1992. And this game is like totally Sega's answer to Adventure Island on the Nintendo. It plays so much like it. The music is so similar in its kind of beat and style. Gameplay is pretty much identical. It's just a slightly different character. But, I mean, it's still fun. Adventure Island was awesome. Up next is World Series Baseball, released by Sega in 1993, and I wasn't really able to get any solid footage of this game, but overall, I mean, it's not the best baseball game that I've played, but on the handheld, it was actually pretty good. Graphics were okay, and it was exactly what you would expect from a baseball game. And here we got WWF WrestleMania Steel Cage Challenge, released by Flying Edge in 1993. And this was having some graphics issues, but overall, it's a lot like pretty much any kind of WWF, WWE kind of game on any of the handhelds or consoles from this era. And overall, I mean, it just plays like a basic wrestling game. There wasn't really anything that super stood out to me. And here we have X-Men, released by Sega in 1994, and this is just like a classic X-Men Marvel-style game on the handheld, and just from this era in general. The colors are great, it has a great graphical style, it definitely feels like a Marvel or an X-Men game, and I had a ton of fun being able to play through this beat-em-up. And last but not least is X-Men Game Master's Legacy, released by Sega in 1994. Now, this is very similar to the previous X-Men game in this video, but they did have a few different changes. They changed a few things graphically, and overall, the gameplay is a little bit tighter, so that made the game a little bit more fun. So there you have it, everyone. That was everything that was in my 4-part series covering the Sega Game Gear. Now, if you liked today's video, please let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, please be sure to also hit those like and subscribe buttons, as well as that little notification bell so that you can alert every time I got a new video coming out. Now, as always, I'm GameDad. I thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you later.